Hello and welcome to a fabulous yet unexpected video. I had intended to be in class with you today, but my daughter's school is closed due to sickness. So I am home and we are doing this way. So last time we talked, we got all the way through our discussion about the executive branch. We talked about executive privilege. We talked about pardons, impeachment, and removal. We talked about the president's role as head of state and commander in chief. I don't think we talked about it as chief executive. I'll circle back to that. I believe we identified the Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense, but we'll just recap that. And then we will jump over into our court system. Okay. And your test will be on Wednesday. When I get back to school on Tuesday, we'll review everything. We'll go over all of the stuff on your chart, and then we will play a couple of review games. Okay. So let's get to it. The executive branch, of course, we know is the president and all of the people that help him out. As chief executive, the president is responsible for making sure that the responsibilities or the decisions made by Congress and the decisions made by the Supreme Court are executed, that they're enforced. Okay. Now we know that the president doesn't ride around in, Air Force One or anything like that and make sure that you are following the law. So how does he do that? Well, he does this through his executive agencies. For example, if there's a law dealing with equal access to a public education, then that's something that the Department of Education at the federal level is going to make sure is being followed throughout the country. Okay, so chief executive makes sure that the laws of Congress and decisions of the court are passed. Next, we've got the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense. And then I believe the Attorney General is on here as well. Yes. So those are the top three positions in the cabinet. Okay. And they are also part of the line of succession. And this is something we're going to talk a lot more about next semester. But the line of succession is basically the list of people who are going to become president in the event of a catastrophe where the president is either incapacitated, unable to serve, or heaven forbid, deceased. Okay. So in the line of succession, here's how it goes. You have the president, of course, but your first positions are vice president. If something happens to the president and the vice president, then you have the Speaker of the House. If something happens to president, vice president, and Speaker of the House, then you go to the the president pro tempore of the Senate. If something happens to all of those people, then it goes to the Secretary of State. And then we go all the way down the list in the through the cabinet, through the order of succession. Okay, we've never, fortunately, we've never gotten past the vice president. Okay, so if something happens to the president, the vice president's always been able to take over. Okay, I'm going to save the War Powers Act for next semester. So let's jump over to the judicial branch. Now, the judicial branch is there we go. The judicial branch is actually broken down into three levels. Each level has its own jurisdiction. So that term, jurisdiction, means your area of influence or your area of authority. Okay. And the example that you guys gave me was Missouri has the jurisdiction to make legal decisions for Missouri, right? Missouri doesn't have jurisdiction over Illinois. Missouri doesn't have jurisdiction over the entire United States, just over Missouri. Okay. So at the bottom level of the federal judicial system, we have the district courts. Okay, district courts are typically the case or the court that hears cases the first time they're presented. If they're dealing with a federal issue or a constitutional issue, that's going to start right there in the federal district courts. Okay, there are branches of the district courts all over the country, and we'll take a look at that map in class. Next, we have appellate courts. And the appellate courts are going to be the second level of the federal court system. So cases start out here at the district court. And if you don't like that decision or you want another case to hear that, then you can appeal your case to the appellate court. Okay, same thing with the appellate court as the district court. There are lots of different branches of the federal appellate court throughout the United States. And then the highest court in the United States, of course, is the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, there's only one, and they are headquartered in Washington, D.C. The Supreme Court is comprised of 9 justices. We have 1 Chief Justice and then 8 Associate Justices. And their job is to hear cases they typically hear really super important cases dealing with constitutional issues. Okay, so they try to figure out if a specific law violates a constitutional right or violates some sort of principle of the Constitution, or if it doesn't, then they uphold that specific law or provision. Okay. That's all I've got for you on the rest of the executive branch and the judicial branch. So I'm going to go ahead and end here for today. Go ahead, finish up your chart, and check Classroom for the rest of your assignments. See ya.